nation here in the fast lane
the incumbents and the people that were expected to start at quarterback for Liberty, I think most people would have projected Deshaun Purdy. For Virginia, Bo Pribula, because Holstein's brought in as competition, but also as a chance to win in the next couple of years. And then Grunkmeyer at Virginia Tech. I think you knew those guys would probably leave spring with a lead. It's draft Nick that he is, has been all along a David Bailey to the Jets guy. So too now Adam Schefter. Tom Pelissero was on the Rich Eisen show, which you hear noon to 3 last week, right here on the VTR and Sports app. But, he was on the indication that he's of the belief that the talk about Arvell Reese to the Jets is more of a smokescreen and that David Bailey's their guy. And that's why they canceled that third pick in the draft with him. So I think there's some merit to that. I would say this. There is more betting money, and I think there's some indication to an extent to follow that. There's more betting money that's coming in on Arvell Reese. But my general theory with the draft is, Trey, later this week, you remember like the Tuesday to Wednesday before the draft when Trayvon Walker went number 1. That is when the market kind of sunk in on that being the selection. You see this on a Tuesday, a Wednesday, or sometimes even a Thursday, where the market really starts to react.
Trey Lance went from like a plus 12-1 underdog to be the third pick to he was like the heavy favorite by draft time, like between Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah, like by Wednesday night, he had gotten close to even money. By Thursday, he was the slight favorite. And by draft time, he was the heavy favorite because the word starts to get out. And that is where you're reacting. And meanwhile, the Cardinals, I think in a perfect world, they trade out of their selection. But the Commanders are not the team that's going to trade up. They don't have a second or a fourth round pick because of the trades for Laramie Tunsil, which I think has been a good one, and for Deebo Samuel, which I know Lake Lewis has his thoughts on the morning warm-up, but I don't know if I would have made that trade if I'm the Commanders. But, you're 1 for 2 on those, but you're lacking draft capital. But did the Giants now, with 2 picks, decide they might want to move up, even if it's 1 spot or a couple spots to 3 to secure a guy that they like? Could be the case. So you've got a number of teams that are now players in the potential to move up. I heard this theory on top with Todd McShay speaking on the Rich Eisen show earlier today about the Chiefs or the Rams. Chiefs picking at 9, the Rams picking at 13 with their first pick. Chiefs' first pick is at 9, their second one from the Rams, ironically, back half of the first round. But that they might try to move up, because how often do you think the Chiefs are really going to be picking this high in the draft with Patrick Mahomes? I know he's coming off the torn ACL, but he'll be back in the early portion of the year. And once he gets back, he's still the best quarterback in the NFL. And the Rams, at some point, they'll be picking this high. But it's like the Eagles' theory of trading A.J. Brown, particularly if they were to trade him. I think he'll go to New England. Schefter reported that today. But the Rams, I want picks from the Rams a couple of years out because I think they're locked in for the next couple of years with Matt Stafford. But once that's done, does he leave? Does McVay leave? All of a sudden they crater, and then you get a really good draft pick out of that. And again, those are thoughts to consider. But because the Rams are in win now mode. The Chiefs are in, we're probably not going to be picking ninth in a long time mode because we have Patrick Mahomes. Then maybe you trade up and try to get a guy that you coveted just because it's unlikely you'll get there before. Those are all thought exercises. We can play that out with Madam President, Candy Waller of Bowie TV Sports. That's in the back half of Covering the Commonwealth. When we kick it off with the JMU Dukes and Shane Metlin next here in the Fast Lane on the VTRN Sports app and Ask That Smart Speaker, open VTRN Sports.
Don't miss the declaration of deals during our spring clearance at Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram. Buy now with big incentives or low financing, or we'll pay your state sales tax. Your choice. Plus no payments for 90 days. Don't miss the savings, like $6,500 off MSRP on a new Jeep Grand Cherokee. Plus no payments for 90 days at Magic City Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, 1750 Independence Boulevard in Bedford. MagicCityBedford.com. Stock number BT12821 with approved credit. See dealer for details. Ends 4/30/26.
If you own a diesel truck or diesel fleet, it's time to go wicked and get serviced for the spring. And when you go wicked, take 25% off your service request for a limited time. Wicked Diesel in Bedford will allow 25% off a transmission flush, coolant flush, oil change, differential service, or AC service. Your choice. Just tell Josh you want that 25% off service special. Download the coupon at wickeddieselva.com. Need diesel repair? Go wicked.
Are you sick of running your dryer longer just to dry your clothes? It might not be a dying appliance. It might be a clogged up dryer vent. Call Black Goose Chimney Service to find out. Their certified ventilation specialists don't just diagnose chimneys. They also clean dryer vents through the entire ventilation system. Get peace of mind as you're protected from lint clogging your dryer vents, one of the most common causes of house fires. Call Black Goose Chimney Service today and visit blackgoose.net to schedule your dryer vent cleaning.
Lunchtime just got an upgrade. Stop by Macadoo for our $8.95 weekday special and grab a legendary sandwich at an unbeatable price. Choose from your favorite classics, the Coney Island, Betty Bob, Ragtime, or Stogie. Classic sandwiches packed with savory meats and flavors in between fresh bread. Make it a meal by pairing your sandwich with a sidekick, a warm cup of soup, or crispy chips. Great food, cozy vibes, and the best deal in town.
It's time to share great food and fun. Just to be there the only one. Just to be there at Market Dues.
We'll see you at the Dues.
Hill City, a weekend of championship giveaways await. Friday prior to the 6:30 p.m. first pitch, an adult championship jersey giveaway. Sunday, the kids get their turn prior to a 2 p.m. start with the youth championship jersey giveaway. Both are brought to you by Autova. And don't forget a 6:30 first pitch Saturday with fireworks following the game. Grab your tickets at hchowlers.com and howl out loud.
When you think 420, you think get high. But when you think 420 at InsaneRadioDeals.com, you think go lower. Like InsaneRadioDeals.com, 42.0% off the list price at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Meaning lower prices on items like try scuba classes for 1 or 2 at Aquatrack Adventures, scuba certification classes, or gift certificates to Aquatrack Adventures, and much more. So enter the promo code SNOOP at checkout now through 420, April 20th, for 42.0% off the list price at InsaneRadioDeals.com.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back to the Fast Lane.
You know, it is just past 4:20 p.m. Central Time. And why we mention that on 420 is not anything to do with the munchies in terms of people that like to consume it because of substances. It's because people who like to save on the munchies at InsaneRadioDeals.com through the end of today, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time. You enter the promo code SNOOP at checkout at InsaneRadioDeals.com. You get 42.0% off the list price at InsaneRadioDeals.com. That includes tons of great food places like downtown Cairo. It's a favorite takeout location for my family and me. You can get those bowls, biggest Mediterranean bowls. If you get the lunch size bowl, that's enough for one person. There's another place like a couple of miles from there where you can pay the price to get a bowl, or you can go to downtown Cairo and get the bowl for less or get a much bigger bowl for the same price. You can figure that out. Similar Mediterranean food, of course, it's so much tastier at downtown Cairo. And that is part of what you can get at InsaneRadioDeals.com because everything there is 42.0% off the list price now through midnight tonight. Well, through 11:59 p.m. Eastern time this evening. And don't worry, even though Melinda's left for the day, we know when you placed your order. So when you place that order and put the promo code SNOOP in at checkout, you will still get 42.0% off the list price, and your order will be fulfilled as such. Normal restrictions do apply, so it doesn't mean you can go stack certain items at InsaneRadioDeals.com. Unlike the JMU Dukes, who are stacking players for their transfer portal class, and we're discussing that right now in
It's time for your teams and topics. Covering the Commonwealth, a look at teams and topics from around the Commonwealth. Let's start with
yes,
the JMU Dukes.
it works. Woo! Might be taking a moment, but we're here. Our sound bites. Meanwhile, he's also here. Shane Metlin of DNROnline.com. Ace Meeks today became the third player to commit to the JMU Dukes. 3-star guard A.J. Evans, a 6'9" post from Iowa, and Luray guard Matt Owens, also part of this class for the JMU Dukes. We know this is an exercise in somewhat guessing, Shane, but based on your initial observations, how should the Dukes fans feel about their third commit, Ace Meeks, joining A.J. Evans and Matt Owens?
I think pretty good. This is one of those ones who I think it's a good pickup for this time of year. One of those guys who probably before the whole portal era would have been an early signee for somebody, either a good major or like a lower level high major, a bottom tier ACC type team, something like that. Maybe he had offers from programs like Boston College and West Virginia and some of those. I don't know exactly what getting an offer means these days. It's not just a scholarship offer. So you kind of have to gauge it against that. But yeah, this is the kind of high school recruit that didn't used to be available this late in the spring. And now mid-majors can kind of slip in there and get some of these guys.
We forgot to mention the third player that's already part of that class, but KJ Wyndham, who's the transfer guard from Northwestern to JMU. You're getting transfers from Iowa and Northwestern out of the Big Ten. Are those potential plays as much as anything? Guys that had the potential to go to power programs, never really cracked the lineup, but you're banking, if you're Preston Spradlin, that you can do something with them?
Yeah, KJ Wyndham coming from Northwestern, he's another one too. Was a pretty highly recruited out of high school. Went to Northwestern, fairly promising freshman year. I mean, not superstar status by any means, but he averaged about 5 points a game and was getting playing time as a freshman. And then just midway through his sophomore year, I don't know exactly what happened. They stopped playing him. And I think, maybe defense had something to do with that. He may have to work on that at JMU, but it's a potentially good pickup for JMU if he's somebody who can kind of get back on track with where he looked like he was going to be a couple of years ago.
Blending high school and transfers on this next question for DNROnline.com's Shane Metlin, who's with us here in the fast lane. Matt Owens, high school recruit guard from Luray. And then, of course, you got the commitment from Notre Dame transfer, the big man who transferred in and is from Northern Virginia, Garrett Sundra, I think is his last name, is how it's pronounced. Yep. Thank you for correcting me on that. How much of JMU going after these type of players is also banking on the fact that maybe if there's a little bit of a local tie, you've got a chance of being able to help them stick around?
Yeah, I mean, I think JMU's always done pretty well in a variety of sports of getting some Virginia players to come back to the area. Northern Virginia is a heavy area for JMU.
the Spring Football Festival or Showcase or whatever they're calling it up in Charlottesville. He was there covering it as he always does with great aplomb for JerryRatcliffe.com. Hootie, great to be speaking with you in the fast lane. Bo Prabula, early action, but not the majority of action. Is that because of not impressing the coaches, or is that more like an NFL preseason game where you know what you've got in your presumed starter, he looks good enough early on, and then you want to get everybody else some reps?
Yeah, I think more of the latter, Ed. I think they pretty much knew what all these guys were capable of. They just wanted to see a little bit about how they reacted under game-like conditions in the stadium. They normally have a couple of scrimmages there, but I guess for some kind of construction reasons, or they had a concert there and all that stuff, I guess they couldn't use the stadium as much this spring as they wanted. And, you know, you have your coaches instead of like in a scrimmage where they're right up in your ear, or they're in the press box or the sidelines or whatever. So I think they just wanted to see how they would react under those kinds of conditions. And also, you know, they had some personnel that missed the spring because of surgeries and injuries, etc., rehabbing from injuries. And also, you know, I think they just wanted to avoid the chances of anybody getting hurt. They've escaped the spring pretty healthy, and I think they wanted to keep it that way going into the summer.
That goal is accomplished for the Virginia Cavaliers. Of course, the goal for great Cavalier Insight is going to JerryRatcliffe.com as Hootie is with us here in the fast lane. Your scatter shooting touches on hell of a Holstein for Eli Holstein. Is that the product of spring practice in the spring game, or is this a guy that can legitimately push Bo Prabula once we get into the summer?
I think they'll both compete right up until the end. I think most people kind of concede that it's Prabula right now. He's a little more athletic. The thing that caught my eye in the spring game is, even though you couldn't touch the quarterbacks, was that he's really fast. He's faster than Chandler Morris was, and I think he can probably pick up some pretty good yardage when he's scrambling or even designated runs this fall. He and Holstein are different. Holstein is more of a classic drop back in the pocket kind of guy. But, you know, as we've seen in recent years, it's awfully hard for a quarterback to finish the season unscathed. So it's nice to know you've got two capable guys back there for sure.
JerryRatcliffe.com founder and contributor Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe with us here in the fast lane. Hootie, I know we touched on this last week with Sam Lewis, the reports that he was coming back to Virginia. Was there a collective exhale when he actually announced it late last week on social media?
Yeah, very much so. I think even though we had sources tell us he was coming back and he had said it himself, I think there was a little behind-the-scenes drama going on there for a while that people weren't necessarily aware of. And for him to come back and officially say that he's coming back was a big deal, because that meant they didn't lose a single player to the portal, even their reserve guys. And that's a pretty big deal when you've got everybody who could come back returning. That says something's got to be right in your program.
Hootie, the right insight is always at JerryRatcliffe.com, and we'll wrap it up with this. How much right is it with Virginia? You were the one, I believe, who, when the whole Coach Mock's dismissal situation broke, you mentioned your sources indicated that up to 10 players were prepared to transfer out of the program, and it was no shock that Mo Johnson was among those who entered the portal when the coaching change started to take place. How big is it then for Aaron Roussel, the new basketball coach for the Lady Hoos, that he's getting a number of these players back headlined by Mo Johnson?
It was massive getting Mo Johnson back, because you figure if you could get her back, that is a pretty strong statement that she believes that this guy can win. And they announced late today that Roussel has also hired former Florida head women's coach Kelly Ray Finley as the associate head coach. She was the head coach of the Gators from 21 to 26, and a noted recruiter. So I think he's got everything going in the right direction right now, and he's just got to build on it as long as he can until they get back out on the practice floor.
We always love building on each interview because they're always great when Jerry joins us. Hootie, thank you for your time today in the Fast Lane. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Ed. Great to see you.
Likewise.
Now to just for you haters, left hand up the Commanders.
And he'll have his left hand up when he gets ready to announce his pick, their pick for the Washington Commanders. That's Roger Goodell, NFL commissioner, and talking some NFL draft with us here in the Fast Lane. Madam President of Bowie TV Sports, Candy Waller, with us here in the Fast Lane. Seawall, great to be speaking with you. A pleasure as always to chat. There's a discussion for the Jets. Do they take David Bailey? Do they take Arvell Reese? It seems to be down to one of those two with the Jets at number 2. Is there one of the two that you're monitoring in terms of if he does not go to the Jets, it could create the domino effect of teams trading up and reshuffling the board for the Commanders at pick 7?
Oh, absolutely. It sounds like there could be some reshuffling of the board if teams want to either get whomever isn't picked at 2, and as we've been talking about a lot in these recent weeks, who is going to get Jeremiah Love? It sounds like teams are now, in terms of who is potentially trading back, it sounds like Arizona may want to trade back. Cleveland's still in the mix that you potentially trade back because teams want to move up to get either Jeremiah Love or, surprise, surprise, potentially wide receiver Jordan Tyson after his very impressive workout last Friday.
So, Jordan Tyson, you brought that up because a lot of people have connected Carnell Tate to the Washington Commanders. Do you believe that Tyson is vaulted over Tate in the Commanders' eyes, or is that more in other teams around the league, particularly those franchises that may trade up and might be better positioned to roll the dice on an injury-prone but talented player?
Absolutely. I think one of the concerns with Jordan Tyson was his injury. But after that workout last Friday, the word is out that he is exactly the explosive wide receiver that everybody anticipates he will be in the league. And now he's slated to be the number 1 wide receiver picked in the draft.
Candy Waller, Bowie TV Sports, with us here in the Fast Lane. Madam President is with us in the Fast Lane. Seawall, of the players that the Washington Commanders would like to fall to them at number 7, if you had to give us your 5, who are they right now and why?
The 5 players that could potentially fall to them?
Yes, we're going to presume Mendoza goes 1, and then that Bailey probably would be gone because he'll go 2 or 3.
Well, I would think, there's still a potential that maybe Sonny Styles falls to the Commanders. It's either Sonny Styles or Caleb Downs. One of those two should absolutely be there at 7, for sure. Because if offensive linemen go to the Giants at 5, or even to the Arizona Cardinals at 3, then it's a good possibility that either Caleb Downs and or Sonny Styles be available at 7. Caleb Downs, I think he's absolutely a game wrecker. I think he's an impact player that the Commanders need. On defense, Sonny Styles, while he may not be as much of a game wrecker or impact player, I think he is a phenomenal position player at linebacker, and he would be a key piece to play that Mike role on the defense. Now, again, Jeremiah Love still may not be there, but hey, Jordan Tyson is enticing. This is after the workout on Friday. If he's there at 7, you definitely got to take him. We all know if there's a chance. I don't think there's a chance at all. But if there's a chance that Jeremiah Love is there, you have to take him because he is noted as the best overall player in the draft. And since the Commanders have already done so well in free agency, they don't have to reach as much per position. They really can go best player available. And then I think, hey, maybe there's an opportunity to get one of these linemen. I know some fans may not like that idea of getting an offensive lineman at that 7th pick, but the Washington Commanders right now only have Nick Allegretti at center. So you never know what may happen.
Last question for Madam President. Candy Waller of Bowie TV Sports with us in the Fast Lane. I get so excited talking draft that I'm pumping my fist for those watching at VTRN Sports and Fastlane Ed Lane on Facebook Live and YouTube. Washington Commanders. I've heard the speculation there being that Kansas City, I get it, they have Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in the NFL. They don't think they're likely to be picking this high again. And the Rams may not be picking this high, at least with Stafford and McVay teamed up together. So they may be incentivized to trade up. Do the Commanders fit the profile of a team that will be a trade partner to move down with either of those and add some extra day 2 picks?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, the Commanders right now don't have a second rounder, and I don't think they have a fourth rounder. They
Correct.
definitely don't have a second rounder. Because we talk about that often because that was a second rounder that went in the trade for Laramie Tunsil. So anything is possible. It is possible. And that 7 pick is for sure enticing because there's so much talent at the top 10 in that top 10 pick area, because anybody you pick in that area at any position will be able to impact your team immediately. This is not a developmental draft class with those first 10 picks. So if someone has a haul in a second rounder this year, the Commanders may take them up on that offer.
We will see. There are a lot of things to monitor. Candy Waller with us here in the Fast Lane. Madam President of Bowie TV Sports. Seawall, it's a pleasure to speak with you. We appreciate it. May try to link up with you on Thursday or Friday as well for some more draft updates, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. Please do. I will be in Ashburn all 3 days. So whenever you guys can catch me, just shoot me a message and I'll hop on.
Wonderful. That alleviates some stress. Madam President doing that for us with us in the Fast Lane. Meanwhile, when we return, we'll pivot off that. Hill City Owlers, they split on the road, win at home, split on the road. That's what people often say. Baseball, we're getting an early look at that. Plus, some NASCAR at Kansas. Is that the way you would describe it?
Are equipped with diverse skill sets to help you on your journey. For more information, visit us at centralvirginiacounseling.com.
When Snoop thinks 420, he probably thinks a case of the munchies. And you should too at InSaneRadioDeals.com. Because now through 420, April 20th, get 42.0% off the list price at InSaneRadioDeals.com. That includes all food items like New Yamato Forest, Downtown Cairo, The Yard on 5th Street, Ballad Brewing, 801 Raw Bar, Oliver's on Rivermont, The Caribbean Jerk Pot, Buttercup and Friends, and Macadoo. So enter the promo code Snoop at checkout now through April 20th for 42.0% off the list price at InSaneRadioDeals.com.
Step into the Fast Lane 24/7 at Trey Lyle VT and Fast Lane Ed Lane on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Now, back back to the fast lane.
3 up, 3 down. What do we mean? Do we have the music back or not? All right. Do we have the right one on?
And it's not working?
Yes.
Okay. Then just
Whatever. It has been one of
Imagine
those
music.
days. We are working on server challenges here at the Virginia Talk Radio Network. Trey and I.
imagine music playing.
All right. Somebody who will get this joke is Jason Prill, play-by-play broadcaster for the Hill City Howlers, because there was a technical issue at TJ's wedding.
Issues.
Yes. The microphone to speaker connection was not working at the very beginning of TJ's beautiful wedding this past Saturday out in Forest. It was awesome. We were so honored to be there for TJ and Brenda. We are happy for them, and I hope and pray that Brenda and TJ are not listening to us at the VTRN Sports app or Fast Lane Ed Lane because they are enjoying their honeymoon together in Nashville. But, because I can't help myself, guess what happened? We had a microphone to speaker connection issue, and I immediately turned around, and of course, I can't contain myself with snarky comments. Team Snarky represent. I look back at Trey and go, Trey, we're off the air. It elicited a much-needed section of laughing from people around, even if I was a little childish in that particular moment. So, somebody who might have heard that joke, maybe even got a chuckle himself, but is still professional enough to put it in the past and join us in the fast lane is Jason Prill. He is the play-by-play broadcaster for the Hill City Howlers and with us in the fast lane. First of all, Jason, it was great seeing you this past Saturday. We were honored, and I thought it was awesome that you and I and Trey and Ty were all able to celebrate TJ and Brenda, and we do want to send our best and congratulations to them this week as they celebrate their marriage.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ed. It was so much fun getting to see you guys, but even more so just to be able to celebrate TJ and Brenda. I know what he means to your organization. I know what he's meant to me as a friend over the last few years. So it was so cool to be able to celebrate with you guys, just his presence, his marriage, and wishing them the best of luck. And I loved the way you got your little plug-in. Hopefully they're not listening to the VTRN app while they're on their honeymoon and are enjoying some quality time together and are just able to rest and enjoy a new life together.
It is. It's awesome. We're super happy for them. Everybody at Team Hill City Howlers and at the VTRN, we're all happy for that. Meanwhile, the Hill City Howlers, I guess you could say happy overall. You know, the objective, they say, is to take care of business at home and then get a split on the road is kind of how things have been looked at, especially through the regular season of sports. Are the Hillcats to be commended? They didn't win all the games at Wilson, but they got a split on the road. They won 2 of 3 in their initial road series at Kannapolis, and they have a homestand victory, meaning, you know, it's early enough in the season, but they're in a strong position.
They really are. And 2 of the 3 losses this past week came on a walk-off in the 9th inning. So they were leading going into those frames. You'd like to see the bullpen shut it down a little bit smoother and not have some of those late-game issues. But, I mean, this team is racking up strikeouts as a pitching staff, which only bodes well for the team. Big names from their community, present and past, coming out to be a part of that. So even though the Howlers had a taste of it, it was a full show that the Warbirds Warbirds put on. And so stepping into that kind of environment is still daunting, regardless of whether you've seen it or not.
Speaking of daunting, which night is going to create the most daunting atmosphere for the Hickory Crawdads over at City Stadium this week? Is it Wednesday during the day at 11 a.m. because that's Education Day with elementary school students? Is it Thursday night with Bark in the Park? Is it Saturday with Youth League night? Or is it Sunday afternoon because it's Youth Championship Jersey giveaway night? All of those nights where kids and pets are going to be there and seemingly making a raucous atmosphere.
It's going to be a tough week for the Crawdads. I don't know what the Crawdads' natural predator is, but I'm pretty sure a dog is probably the least comfortable thing that they're going to be around this week. But in full seriousness, though, playing Wednesday at 11 a.m. in front of a crowd of thousands of screaming kids, that's got to be daunting coming into a new environment and coming into to Lynchburg. So I think Wednesday, with all the kids just screaming their heads off, shouting for the Howlers, I think that's going to be a bit intimidating for the Crawdads, but it's going to be a really exciting week at the ballpark. A lot of fun things going on, and we're just so excited to have the team back in town and just continue on with what's going to be a great season.
Always exciting, and we love catching up with Jason Pearl, play-by-play broadcaster for the Hill City Howlers here in the Fast Lane. JaspPearl19 on his socials, hchowlers.com, and HC Howlers on theirs, as we're at Fast Lane, Ed Lane on all of ours. Jason, thank you for your time today here in the Fast Lane. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. You as well, Ed.
Now to NASCAR at Kansas with Steven Stump of FrontStretch.com. Slated to join us here in the Fast Lane. Steven, great to be speaking with you. Was this a downer of an entertainment race at Kansas? Not the end, but the overall race where up until the last couple of laps, Denny Hamlin looked like he was running away from the field, and it seemed to be more of a follow-the-leader style intermediate race.
The intermediate races this year have been kind of odd. They've been very straightforward. Las Vegas only had one caution. Every car finished the race. Kansas only had one caution. Every car finished the race. I think this year is just a product of the racing has been very clean, and the haves are much better than the have-nots this year. You think about how great Toyota, Reddick, Hamlin, they've been. And it's not really a surprise that they've kind of just pulled away, and at least the intermediate races haven't been too competitive.
You mentioned that. Is this a bigger long-term concern for NASCAR, or is this something that they can rectify and get back to the intermediate racing that we saw last year and really have seen the last couple of years where that's been the highlight of this car?
I don't know. It's difficult to say. I do think I will say that all kinds of racing in the next gen, including intermediate racing, was just the best it was in year one because the teams were all trying to figure out the cars. Not everyone had a playbook, the rule book, but now as we get longer and longer to having this seventh generation car, the teams are figuring it out more and more. And I guess in that way, you can't really undo that progress and have the teams that are falling behind catch up unless you throw all the teams a curveball with a bunch of new rules and new regulations or a new car.
Overall, is this an indication of how strong Toyota is, the way Denny Hamlin dominated and Tyler Reddick won? Or is this an indication more of the way the track works, where if you get out in front early, you get a big lead and therefore it becomes more difficult to actually pass?
I mean, I don't think it's difficult to pass. I think it's just the cars that were good were just, so far ahead of everyone else, you couldn't really catch them. But you could pass, and that battle between, Tyler Reddick and Denny Hamlin at the end until that caution came out, they were, they did slightly different strategies. Reddick had slightly pressured tires, and he was able to get by, and Denny was able to get by just a few laps later when Reddick had that hiccup. So I don't think it's a problem with the cars passing. We've had 5 years to see that the next gen cars are still, they're still great on the intermediate tracks, but it's just, again, that some of the teams and just Toyota are so far ahead. And Toyota, they might be on track to have their best season since 2019. They've won 7 of the first 9 races, and the two they didn't win, they finished second. So I think it's just going to be a matter of they're clearly ahead. Can Chevrolet and Ford really catch up?
So you brought that up. Is it Tyler Reddick and Denny Hamlin? Is it anybody in the Toyota? Where do you turn if you're assessing quarter pole favorites for the NASCAR championship?
I think, Reddick, obviously, with his historic start, 5 wins in 9 races, the first driver to do that in almost 40 years. He's obviously the favorite at the moment. Then he's up to second in points. He's kind of been lights out almost every weekend since his win in Las Vegas. Larson, even though he hasn't won and his winless streak is approaching a year, he's led almost 500 laps this year. He's been really close to breaking that streak, almost did it until the last lap. He's up there. I feel like it's those three at the moment, but as we've seen, it's not even May. It's still April. There's 17 races left until the chase starts, and a lot can happen between now and then. So I think it's too early to say there's truly a favorite at the moment, even with how good Toyota, Reddick, they are to start this season.
We're chatting with Steven Stumpf, Steven_Stumpf on Twitter and Instagram. He's with frontstretch.com. Steven, great to be speaking with you. We are grateful for your time today in the Fast Lane. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Great to speak to you guys as always.
Now to the Virginia Tech Hokies on W267 BG Timberlake, WVGMA Lynchburg, WMNA, Gretna, Danville, Southside with lead analyst for TechSideline.com, Chris Coleman, with us here in the Fast Lane. Chris, great to be speaking with you. We are thankful for your time today in the Fast Lane. We've been dealing with our own technical challenges, kind of the theme of Virginia Tech's weekend as well with the, we can joke about it, thankfully, but the skydiver who ended up crashing into the scoreboard in Blacksburg, diving down. I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. I'd imagine there are a lot of insurance companies today who are advising schools that this is probably not something you'll be seeing in future promotions at Virginia Tech or at other events as well and other venues as well.
Yeah, it kind of makes you wonder how something like that has never happened before, or maybe it has. Maybe it was way back in the day before television or something like that. I don't know. We just did see it, but yeah, I would imagine you're not going to see very much of that anymore. Certainly not at Virginia Tech. Up in the mountains where the wind can shift from one direction to the other just like that. So yeah, it was a scary moment. Fortunately, he turned out to be okay, but that could have been really bad.
What was it like when you're actually witnessing the moment live? Is there a shock? Is there fear? What's going through your mind and the minds of people with whom you were speaking?
I did not see him hit the scoreboard personally. I was sending somebody a text message, and then I happened to look up, and I saw the American flag just falling down to the ground, and I'm like, what happened? And then I kind of looked up, and that's when I saw him hanging off the scoreboard. So, everybody was just kind of speculating. They put the first ladder up there, and it wasn't tall enough to get to him. And then I was sitting up in a suite, so I was really, really high in the air, and I could see on the practice field behind the Jumbotron that they were running out a bunch of the wrestling mats and a bunch of the equipment that Virginia Tech uses during football practice, basically anything inflatable with soft padding. And I was sitting there thinking, man, are they going to have, if that ladder's not tall enough, or are they going to have to make him just release his harness and do a free fall on top of these mats and everything? I didn't know. So it was just all kind of a bunch of speculation, but fortunately they finally got the taller ladder over there and they were able to get him down.
Chris Coleman of TechSideline.com is with us here in the Fast Lane. True or false? That was the one low light and downer of a day where everyone seemed to be celebrating James Franklin in particular, but even the overall aura of the program having some organization and optimism that it didn't have previously.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think, assuming Jaquez White is okay, he kind of got hurt there on the first play of the second half, I believe. But it sounds like he's going to be okay, at least, from his tweets afterwards, it seems like he's okay. So assuming he's out of the woods, I think you really don't have any other downers. Had one other player injured, but, again, we don't know any details on that. But overall, I think it was a very positive day for Virginia Tech. And, you're sitting there thinking, okay, if something bad is going to happen, is this going to be like a bad omen for the season or something like that? But I think we can take it as a positive right now. Maybe it's a positive omen for the season in the future.
Since we didn't get, anything, too negative from the spring game at Virginia Tech, What are the biggest positives in Chris Coleman's analysis? I know you wrote on the tight end usage and your latest TechSideline.com article. What are the big positives where if you're going, all right, this gives me some confidence and momentum looking at Virginia Tech football heading through these swarmy, sweaty, warm summer months into a similar vibe in fall camp?
I think they've improved their talent level across the board. I'm not sitting here saying that they're one of the most talented teams in the country or anything like that, because it's still a very young team. A lot of that talent is still very young. I mean, we talk about the quarterback room all spring and what arm talent there is, and that's absolutely accurate. But at the same time, there's only one player in that room that's older than a freshman. So there's going to be some ups and downs, of course, when you're dealing with a young group like that. But, I think overall talent across the board is up. There are more players that, look the part when they're getting off the bus. And, of course, looking the part is only part of the game. But, I think you'd be hard-pressed to go to a practice right now and tell me that Virginia Tech is not more talented than they were the last few years. They absolutely are.
Is that the reason why the overall talent level, is that the reason why Virginia Tech had a, quote, I'm going to use air quotes here, an upset result, quote unquote, for the spring football game?
Maybe. I think most people who looked at that roster before the game thought it was going to be a relatively easy win for Maroon, and it was not. Now, you can never truly tell, with the offensive line split up amongst both teams. And, your starting quarterback gives way in the second half for a true freshman who was, he had a strong scrimmage earlier in the year, but it was a little bit of a deer in the headlights during the spring game maybe. But yeah, I think that is maybe a little bit indicative of the competition level from top to bottom on the roster. Now, you can look at that as a positive, and it is a positive, but on the other hand, it also might mean maybe you don't quite have too many truly standout players yet. I think there's certainly some guys that could develop into that, but maybe they're not quite there yet.
You touched on Grunkmeyer as the starting quarterback. You touched on the offensive line. Let's tackle Grunkmeyer first. Is he definitively the starting quarterback in your eyes and in the coaches' minds when they're not speaking in the microphone like they were after the game this past Saturday?
Oh, I suspect so. I think they wanted to put as much talent in that room as they could, and if somebody's able to beat him out, then that's good, because he played well for Penn State down the stretch last year and flashed a lot of talent. But I think they always brought him in here thinking that he would. The very likely scenario is that he would start, and I haven't heard anything or seen anything that would indicate to me that that's going to be different. I thought overall, he was definitely the most efficient quarterback on the field on Saturday. I think he's got a lot of arm talent, and he's the only one of those quarterbacks that's ever played in a college game. He's going out there and beaten Clemson. I mean, he almost beat Indiana, right? He's the only opposing quarterback that's really been able to almost beat Fernando Mendoza, right? That game went down to the wire, and I think he's got a lot to his game, and obviously he's 3 years of eligibility left. He's still got plenty he can improve on. So he's got pretty high ceiling, but I think he's closer to a ceiling than those other guys, and that makes him the most definite front runner to be the starter.
Chris Coleman, TSL, that's his Twitter account, techsideline.com, and the TSL podcast. Those are the ways to keep up with all of their great work. We are at Fast Lane, Ed Lane, however you listen to podcasts, including Facebook Live, YouTube, and Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We touched on the offensive line, Chris. Do you have any conclusions about that unit at all, or because it was broken up so much during the spring showcase, it's almost impossible to really get a firm conclusion on that unit?
Yeah, I think it's impossible, especially when Logan Howland, who you brought in from Oklahoma, is probably, your best offensive tackle. He wasn't, he was injured and didn't play this spring. And you had some other guys that were in and out of the lineup throughout the course of the spring with injuries too, and you're still trying to get those guys situated and figure out exactly where they fit, and maybe in one or two cases, even what position that they fit in at. So I think they've been in a better spot there than they were last year. I think, Kyle Altuner is a definite starter at center. Howland, when he comes back, should start based on experience and past performances. But, and it seemed like Leif Gannum kind of held on there to the starting left guard spot the entire time. Right guard's a little bit of a question. Montavious Cunningham seemed to do pretty well at right tackle, but I still think there's plenty of competing there to be done when camp opens. You not only you want to find a starting five, but ideally you'd like to find 8 guys who can play, and that's easier said than done. There's just not that many 300 plus pound human beings who can move their feet at a really high level in this world. So there's probably not a team in the country that's not saying right now, oh gosh, we can't use another extra lineman because we got so many good linemen, right? It's just not too many of those guys. So some of it's going to come down to health. If they can stay healthy up front this year, I think they'll be much improved. Well, I think they'll be much improved either way. It's just a matter of what is that level of improvement? Are they going to be pretty decent? Are they going to be average? Or are they going to be below average? I mean, they were very bad last year, so they're going to be a lot better. It's just a question of, what level of improvement.
Professor Bill Roth to Trey Lyle, but Bill Roth to everyone else in the 3304 Sports communications program at Virginia Tech would frown upon me for this next one. Instead of asking a question, I'll just say, Chris, take a victory lap. You've had a couple of home run notes in the last couple of weeks that have finally been acknowledged. Turnover, Hokie Club getting its dedicated exclusive leader. Then James Franklin saying that in mid-game they're going to use the locker room at the stadium as opposed to going back to the Merriman Center and wasting so much more time. Which one, or can you go with both, is the bigger victory lap in your eyes for Virginia Tech?
I mean, it's hard to pick one or the other because I thought they were both necessary. I think that Franklin saying basically exactly what I've been saying. I've been saying they've been wasting 4 to 6 minutes per game getting back to that locker room, and he said the same thing. Or excuse me, not even a locker room, going back to the weight room rather than staying in the stadium at halftime. And he said the exact same thing in Thursday interviews last week. And then when they had made that announcement about Danny White being promoted but would relinquish his Hokie Club role, they basically said what I was saying. This is in the modern era of college athletics. Your head fundraiser has to be 100% dedicated to that position full time. He can't have other responsibilities within the athletic department. I've been preaching both of those things for several years now. So, I mean, I guess I feel a little bit vindicated, yeah, but at the same time, you're still a little bit frustrating. It's like, well, why did it take you so long to figure that out? But here we are, and I'm just thankful for everyone to realize that, and we can put that era behind us and hopefully move forward.
The answer to why it took so long, Chris, is it took them long enough to start reading techsideline.com and listening to the TSL podcast. And then once they did, they were exposed to the great ideas and attitudes that you suggested, and the light bulb magically went on.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that was exactly it. Although for the first one, as far as the locker room goes, it just took hiring like a very experienced head coach to realize that. I'm not surprised that was coming because to me that one was one of the more common sense things that they could have done to help the team in the short term.
I use this phrase a lot, Chris. If I can figure it out, people smarter than me can figure it out.
Yeah, that's a good phrase. I might have to steal that one.
You can, absolutely. And you can steal more great insight by being a subscriber at techsideline.com. It's well worth the subscription. $12 a month, $120 a year. And of course, we love talking about it and promoting it with you, Chris, and your colleagues from techsideline.com here in the Fast Lane. Thank you for your time today.
Hey, appreciate it, Ed. Have a good one, man.
You too. Chris Coleman with us here in the Fast Lane to wrap it up. Trey can finally exhale for a moment, at least as I stop running my mouth. Now on to Freddie and Harry in progress and figuring out whatever's going on with our challenges here at the Virginia Talk Radio Network.
I do think a lot of the Joe Burrow psychoanalysis got overboard last year.